Rumpelstiltskin, Brothers Grimm. Once there was a miller who was poor but had a beautiful daughter. One day he happened to be talking with the king, and wanting to impress him, he said, "I've got a daughter who can spin straw into gold." The king said to the miller, "That's just the kind of talent that appeals to me. If your daughter is as clever as you say, bring her to my palace tomorrow, and I'll see what she can do." When the girl arrived, he took her to a room that was full of straw, gave her a spinning wheel, and said, "Now, get to work. You have the whole night ahead of you, but if you haven't spun this straw into gold by tomorrow morning, you will die." Then he locked the room with his own hands, and she was left all alone. The poor miller's daughter sat there, and for the life of her she didn't know what to do. She hadn't the faintest idea how to spin straw into gold, and she was so frightened that in the end she began to cry. Then suddenly the door opened, and in stepped a little man. "Good evening, Mistress Miller," he said. "Why are you crying so?" "Oh," she said, "I'm supposed to spin straw into gold, and I don't know how." The little man asked, "What will you give me if I spin it for you?" "My necklace," said the girl. The little man took the necklace, sat down at the spinning wheel, and whir, 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 3 turns, and the spool was full. Then he put on another, and whir, 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 3 turns, and the second spool was full. All night he spun, and by sun-up all the straw was spun, and all the spools were full of gold. First thing in the morning, the king stepped in. He was amazed and delighted when he saw the gold, but the greed for gold grew in his heart. He had the miller's daughter taken to a larger room full of straw, and told her to spin this too into gold if she valued her life. She had no idea what to do, and she was crying when the door opened. Again the little man appeared and said, "What will you give me if I spin this straw into gold for you?" "The ring off my finger." The little man took the ring and started the wheel whirring again, and by morning he had spun all the straw into glittering gold. The king was overjoyed at the sight, but his appetite for gold wasn't satisfied yet. He had the miller's daughter taken into a still larger room full of straw, and said, "You'll have to spin this into gold tonight, but if you succeed, you shall be my wife." "I know she's only a miller's daughter," he said to himself, "but I'll never find a richer woman anywhere." When the girl was alone, the little man came for the 3rd time and said, "What will you give me if I spin the straw into gold for you this time?" "I have nothing more to give you," said the girl. "Then promise to give me your first child if you get to be queen." "Who knows what the future will bring?" thought the miller's daughter. Besides, she had no choice. She gave the required promise, and again the little man spun the straw into gold. When the king arrived in the morning and found everything as he had wished, he married her, and the beautiful miller's daughter became a queen. A year later, she brought a beautiful child into the world. She had forgotten all about the little man. Suddenly, he stepped into her room and said, "Now, give me what you promised." The queen was horrified. She promised him all the riches in the kingdom if only he let her keep her child. But the little man said, "No, I'd sooner have a living thing than all the treasures in the world." Then the queen began to weep and wail so heart-rendingly that the little man took pity on her. "I'll give you 3 days' time," he said. "If by then you know my name, you can keep your child." The queen racked her brains all night. She went over all the names she had ever heard, and she sent out a messenger to inquire all over the country what other names there might be. When the little man came next day, she started with Caspar, Melchior, and Balthazar, and reeled off all the names she knew. But at each one the little man said, "That is not my name." The second day she sent servants around the district to ask about names, and she tried the strangest and most unusual of them on the little man. "Could your name be Ribcage, or Mutton Chop, or Lace Legs?" But each time he replied, "That is not my name." The third day the messenger returned and said, "I haven't discovered a single new name, but as I was walking along the edge of the forest, I rounded a bend and found myself at the foot of a high hill, the kind of place where fox and hare bid each other good night. There I saw a hut, and outside the hut a fire was burning, and a ridiculous little man was dancing around the fire and hopping on one foot and bellowing, 'Brew today, tomorrow bake. After that the child I'll take, and sad the queen will be to lose it. Rumpelstiltskin is my name, but luckily nobody knows it.'" You can imagine how happy the queen was to hear that name. It wasn't long before the little man turned up and asked her, "Well, your majesty, what's my name?" She started by asking, "Is it Tom?" "No." "Is it Dick?" "No." "Is it Harry?" "No." "Could it be Rumpelstiltskin?" "The devil told you that! The devil told you that!" the little man screamed, and in his rage he stamped his right foot so hard that it went into the ground up to his waist. Then in his fury he took his left foot in both hands and tore himself in two.